I do not like it.
Today we're discussing a question many Australians have asked. What if Australia had adopted a Norway-style gas and resource fund decades ago? Could it have changed the country's financial future?
It is a fascinating question, and the answer is potentially yes. Australia may have missed an opportunity to convert a one-time natural resource into a long-term financial asset.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly did Norway do?
Norway created a sovereign wealth fund in the 1990s. Instead of spending all the money earned from oil and gas, they invested a large portion of it. Over time, that fund grew into one of the largest investment funds in the world.
How large is Norway's fund today?
Today it is worth more than 3 trillion Australian dollars. That is with a population of only about 5.6 million people.
$3 trillion. That is hard to imagine.
It certainly is. What is even more remarkable is that Norway hasn't simply spent the money. The fund continues to grow and generates billions of dollars in earnings every year.
How does that compare with Australia?
Australia chose a different path. We encouraged private investment and exported huge amounts of gas and other resources. While that created jobs and economic activity, we didn't build a sovereign wealth fund on the scale that Norway did.
So what might Australia look like today if we'd followed Norway's example?
Let's imagine Australia had been collecting an additional $20 billion a year from gas and resource revenues.
Then invested that money.
Exactly. Suppose it was invested in a future Australia fund and earned an average return of 7% per year, with all earnings reinvested.
What would happen?
After 10 years, the fund could be worth around $280 billion. After 20 years, around $820 billion. After 30 years, approximately $1.9 trillion.
That is more than Australia's current national debt. So
correct. After about 25 to 30 years, the fund could potentially exceed today's level of federal debt, while still preserving the original capital.
Could Australia have paid off the national debt?
Potentially. Yes. But that is not actually the most interesting part.
Why not?
Because the real power of a sovereign wealth fund isn't paying off debt. It is creating an asset that continues to generate income forever.
How much income are we talking about?
A $1 trillion fund earning 4% annually would generate about $40 billion every year. A $1.5 trillion fund could generate around $60 billion per year.
And that money could be used for what?
Hospitals, roads, schools, aged care, defense, tax relief, debt reduction, or simply saved for future generations.
So the gas gets sold once, but the earnings continue forever.
Exactly. The gas is finite. Once it is gone, it is gone. A sovereign wealth fund converts that temporary resource into a permanent source of income.
What do you think is the biggest lesson?
The lesson is that natural resources are a national inheritance. The question isn't whether we should export them. The question is whether we receive a fair return and what we do with that return.
So the debate isn't really about gas.
No, it is about what sort of country we want to leave for our children, and grandchildren.
One final question. If Australia had started a Norway-style fund in the 1990s, where might we be today?
We could potentially have a sovereign wealth fund worth hundreds of billions, perhaps even over $1 trillion. The earnings alone might be contributing $20 to $60 billion every year to the nation.
And Australia's debt? A missed opportunity.
It could be dramatically lower, possibly close to zero in some scenarios. But more importantly, Australians would own a permanent financial asset built from resources that once lay beneath our soil.
A missed opportunity.
Perhaps. But it is also a reminder that the decisions we make today about our resources will shape Australia for generations to come.
The gas fields may one day run dry. The question is whether the wealth they created lasts forever. Before I finish, I'd like to sincerely thank my good friend, the Caveman, for conducting today's interview with Bigfoot, and for asking such thoughtful questions about Australia's gas resources, and the possibility of establishing a sovereign wealth fund for future generations. I'd also like to extend a very special thank you to Bigfoot for coming out of hibernation early to join us today. As everyone knows, he is regarded as the foremost expert on the subject. His unique perspective, gathered over thousands of years of quietly observing Australia, has certainly given us all plenty to think about. To both of you, thank you for your time, your insights, and your willingness to help Australians better understand what could be one of the most important conversations about our nation's future. And to everyone watching, thank you. Good night, and please, explain why Australia shouldn't receive a fair return from its own natural resources.